Hello, everyone. Good morning for those for whom it's 11 a.m. EST, and good afternoon for those who are from Europe, Asia. We have nice geography today. People are joining us from different parts of the world. So, hello, everyone. Happy to see you here. And let me start introducing our topic, the path to growth in 2026, AI-driven S&OP for financial impact. So as you can see, we already start preparing to next year. It is right time to start planning. It is right time to start discovering new strategies, new solutions. And welcome, everyone. Welcome, and I'm happy that you joined our webinar today. Let's give one more minute for everyone who wanted to join us. And let me start with my favorite question, which is actually where you're located. So let me know in chat where you're located and if everything's fine with sound, with connection. So we already have France, we already have India. Thanks for joining. Austin, Texas, hello. Cape Town, Chicago, Romania, India, Houston, Texas, London, Pennsylvania. Yes, thanks for joining. Perfect. I'm happy to see that we have people from all different corners of this world. Israel, thanks for joining too. Perfect. Let's move on. Officially, hello to everyone, and let me start introducing not only our topic for today, but also our speakers. My name is Natalie Axie, and I'm happy to be a host today. As usually, if you are speaking about webinars hosted by Streamline, I am currently working on my PhD in related topics related to technology and startups. I am certified supply chain professional in Streamline. Currently, I'm Chief Growth Officer. So speaking about growth, this is something that is very interesting for me. This is something that I am responsible for. And let me also introduce our speaker, Adam Basson. And Adam is a president at Council of Supply Chain Management Professional Roundtable in South Florida. And he's also founder and CEO of FlexChain Holdings. So Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. But if you don't mind, let me also speak a little bit about your experience and expertise for our guests to understand again what to expect and what kind of questions we can ask. So first of all, hello, but let me also continue with your introduction.
Great to be here with you, Natalie.
Thank you for joining us. Let me also mention that Adam is supply chain leader and technology enthusiast. He drives innovation to build business agility and profitability. So again, today we will be speaking a lot about profitability, about growth. Adam is leveraging executive experience across private equities, CPGs, retail, and he is very enthusiastic about efficiency and data-driven solutions. He specializes in optimizing complex areas like freight management, distribution network design, S&OP, strategic digitalization, nearshoring, global procurement, and many other important and strategic domains. And what is the most important for today's webinar, he is successfully managing complex AI-based solutions implementation in supply chain field. So thank you so much for joining, Adam. Thank you so much for being our speaker today. And let's move on to our logistics and agenda. Okay. If you're speaking about webinar logistics, you remember that all webinars we have here in Streamline, all of our webinars are very interactive. So please engage with us, ask questions, and we will be absolutely happy to respond to those questions during the webinar, and we will have a couple of minutes at the end. And of course, you will not miss this session because we will have recording, and you will have recording of this webinar, I believe, just in like 1-2 days, working days after this webinar today, so by the end of the week. And if you're speaking about today's agenda, we are going to speak about AI-powered S&OP and next level of business process evolution. We will speak a little bit about AI automation paradox. We will speak about framework for AI-based automation, and Adam will share with you some of his methods and the concept how he's working with automation and process automation. We will speak about building confidence and competence for financial impact, and about human advantage in AI era. So growth, optimization is, it's not only about AI, it's also about human intelligence, right? And we will try to summarize today, and we will speak about S&OP in 2026. So if you are okay with this kind of agenda, let's move on, okay? And before our main contact, let me remind you that today's webinar is sponsored by Streamline solution for demand forecasting, inventory management, and S&OP. We are on the market for many years, and we are proudly partnering with more than 200 partners globally around the globe. We are operating in more than 40 countries, and we have more than 1,000 companies onboarded as our customers. We are recognized on G2. And among our customers, you can see Circle K, NG, Badia, Genoma Lab, and many, many, many others. And as you can see, from absolutely different industries. So happy to be here with you today and with Streamline. And let's speak a little bit about market, what's happening to market right now. Just give me a second. To start today's webinar, I made research, and it's always interesting to see what companies like McKinsey, Ernst & Young, Gartner, what all of these experts think and write and speak about our market today. And according to McKinsey, agentic AI is projected to cover 60%, more than 60% of the incremental value for AI in marketing and sales. I don't think this is very insightful, but what is great, it's gonna influence and uplift growth. If you're talking about productivity improvement, it's gonna improve 3 to 5% annually, and growth uplift of 10% or more. But as you can see, those projections are very, I would say, conservative. They don't overpromise. So 3-5% annually, 10%, it's absolutely doable. This is actually what we can achieve with efficiency, right? Efficiency in processes. But what is interesting, and actually what was interesting, very interesting for me, is Ernst & Young research and article about Gen AI deployment and implementation challenges. As you can see, in research, around 73% of supply chain executives are planning to deploy AI agents in their supply chains. And 62 actually paused their project for some reason, and only 7% completed deployment. What does it mean? It means that from one point of view, AI can increase efficiency, and AI, this is not tomorrow, this is today's, and efficient supply chain managers, efficient supply chain consultants, they will use AI, but less than 10% are currently successful. Why? Let's try to discover it today. It's even more interesting actually to check other researchers, for example, by Gartner. 72%, as you can see, Gartner's and Ernst & Young numbers are very close, right? So 72% of supply chain organizations are deploying Gen AI, but the productivity gains are most of the individual level and not translating into team level or ROI level outcomes. What does it mean? For individual contributors, for managers, those who are well educated, if you're talking about technology, they have a lot of benefits from using AI. But if you're talking about company level or ROI, still it's not enough. Okay, again, let's discuss today how to make it more efficient. And probably the last one I wanted to mention today is one more research from Ernst & Young, and it's about impact on workforce and talent. Ernst & Young expects that by 2035, 45% of supply chain may be mostly autonomous. And what is important? It's important to invest into talent evolution, okay? Upskilling new roles and reshaping how our teams are working, how they are deploying AI, and how they can become more efficient with AI. So this is actually something I want to discuss with Adam today. But before that, let me also show you, actually, it's something like helicopter view on S&OP. Me personally, I am a fan of S&OP. I believe that sales and operation planning is extremely useful process in each organization, and doesn't matter size of organization, industry. Planning, communication is very important. And as you can see, starting from 80s, it is one of the most important methodology in business. But what was changing? In 1980s, S&OP was manual, and to deliver this process, we were using pen and papers, right? 90s and 2010s, we are speaking about spreadsheets. 2010 until present times, we are speaking about cloud IBP, we are speaking about SaaS platforms, still very efficient, still very popular. But if I'm speaking about late 2020s, or actually mid, because we're in mid, we are speaking about AI and machine learning automation for S&OP. So let's dive deeper into those technologies, into implementation and people. And altogether, it will show us path to growth in 2026. And how can we be more efficient if you're speaking about budgets and if you're speaking about finances? Adam, are we ready to move on?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So let's discuss first questions. Today we are going to have more like an interview, okay? And our first question is, what's the biggest misconception you see about AI and automation in supply chain planning?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception I see has to do with one is just people not necessarily fully understanding what is AI as a technology, what is the great innovation that we've seen in the last 3 years, and therefore either kind of putting it into one of two buckets, which I think is kind of a false binary. People will either say AI is going to just completely take over everything from a supply chain planning standpoint. That's you kind of have one extreme, and on the other extreme, you have people saying AI is not going to amount to a hill of beans. It's not going to have any impact at all because it hallucinates or because there is there's some shortcoming that AI is still not able to do. Therefore, I don't want to implement it at all. Right. I think the real kind of, the middle line, which is the way to think about it, as with many things, is that AI is an opportunity to make your team, from a supply chain planning standpoint, better, faster, and stronger. Right. It will amplify the foundation you already have as a business, right, if it's deployed correctly. So if your data, your processes, your team setup, et cetera, if that isn't strong, then it's unlikely that you just throw AI on top of it and everything's going to get better. But that said, there are, a variety of ways where AI can be deployed to make your team a stronger version of what it is today and basically prepare it for growth.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Totally agree. Can't agree more. Let's speak a little bit about deployment. And very often companies fail when they're trying to implement too fast. What is your recommendation here?
So I think one of the issues, right, when a company is trying to automate too quickly, right, is that they end up creating they deploy AI in places where it's not able to be effective, right? And they over rely upon it if they move too quickly, right? And it's a little bit like, my analogy is if you're getting on a treadmill, right? And you set it to sprint speed, right? It might be, you know, uh, if you haven't kind of ramped up your organization to be able to absorb AI properly and deploy it properly, and you, for example, right, you say, hey, I want to have AI make all of my buying decisions, right? And then, one small hallucination, right, leads to money being spent in areas where it shouldn't have been, and then that obviously creates a negative, feedback where you're now not willing to deploy AI at all because your business has been burned by it, right? So I think the most important thing when a company is considering AI is just to make sure that they're doing it in a way that's sort of thoughtful and calibrated to the problem that they're looking to solve.
Thank you so much. So it's very important to have this balance, right? It looks like we are going to speak a lot about balance and balance in AI implementation. I want to talk a little bit about three-zone concepts if you're talking about automation. And you often break automation into three categories. Can you talk a little bit about it? So let's move on to it.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to, right, where are the opportunities where AI can be deployed, right? And how to think about it, right? Just at a very high level. And honestly, like, what I always kind of say is anybody who's talking about AI right now, in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, it's a rapidly evolving technology. So there could very well be different applications of it that, that are going to continue getting rolled out as we move forward, right? But just here are some examples, and I think just more how to think about it conceptually, right? The first is you have zone one, right? Zone one are the areas where AI can be deployed within your planning organization in areas that are either lower consequence, as in there's not exposure for AI to have a severe negative impact on your operation, or you're operating in white space where no action was being taken in this area at all, right? And so any recommendations, et cetera, that are being served up from AI, they're not displacing a process that was already potentially working, right? So one example could be of this could be if you're trying to figure out like market expanding into a new market, right? And you want an AI that will make some recommendations for how to go about this process operationally, how to think about your forecasting, what pieces you want to be setting up for your organization. Again, operating at a pretty high level, and in an area where by definition you're not overturning something you had existing, right? Because you're in a new market, right? And maybe you wouldn't have even expanded in that market if you didn't have the sort of, support and information you were able to get from AI, right? So using it really as another common one is the one we all know, right? Meeting summaries, right? If you're having S&OP planning meetings with some of the members of your team, right? And you're figuring out what are some decisions we need to take, what are some, upcoming challenges that we need to prepare for and align, right? You could both structure the meetings and summaries afterwards, right? Effectively using AI. And then the other piece, right, is you have uh, basically, right, if you're then not in a situation where you're using it kind of informationally. The third one that I say for this kind of zone one is if you're looking at instructions for how to plan your operation, right? So if you set up, for example, a lot of documents, so Streamline, for example, right, has a feature where there's an AI chatbot embedded within the software itself that's able to search through product documentation. So when you're in the tool and if you're trying to figure out where a certain functionality is, it's able to basically point you in that direction, right? And normally you would have had to open a support ticket, send an email, make a phone call, right? So that's just an example of where it's not causing you to spend money in some area, it's just helping the user be more effective. Category two, zone two, is what I would call supervised automation. That is the team using AI as a co-pilot, right, for actually making certain day-to-day decisions, making a specific recommendation around forecasting, making a specific recommendation around getting out of a certain product for inventory, canceling orders, adjusting orders, right? This might be an area where, you would want a human involved because it is affecting your operation in an immediate way, but the AI is able to help them see things that they would not have otherwise seen. right? So this is also a good area. It requires that you kind of have a team that knows how to supervise the decision it's making, but you can make higher consequence decisions as long as you have somebody who's able to sort of work alongside it and check it. And then the third area that I would give, these are significant upside, but also very, very sensitive, right? Because they can have a massive impact on your operation if you don't have a team and a structure in place to be able to supervise it, right? So this is going to be, completely having an autonomous inventory optimization planning capability from AI, right? This would be, determining things like production schedules, changing your pricing logic. These can have massive impacts on your business. And these are some areas that folks are deploying AI. But I would say that in general, right, if, and some of these are also the zone two, some of these are zone two work streams as well, but just making sure if it's, an area that's going to have a big impact potentially on your bottom line, make sure that you are slowly ramping into it, that you're investing and developing a plan for your team to be able to kind of support those processes. If there's new technology you need to buy, new kind of team capabilities you need to invest in, make sure that you're doing that before you deploy anything that would fall into that kind of zone 3, high impact, high strategic effect category, right? Just so that you don't end up in a face plant situation like we talked about before.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Just give me, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I have somebody knocking on my door and I just have to step away for 20 seconds.
okay.
So
So
sorry.
no problem, no problem. Let's take your time. We are moving forward to next slide, and we have a question actually from one of our attendee, and let me read it. A consultant recently told me that AI tools are not yet up to the level when it comes to sales forecasting and therefore to raw material consumption forecasting. He said that traditional algorithms are currently more efficient. What do you think about this statement? Julian, thank you so much for this question. And 100%, if your consultant told you that he had reason to do it, so probably he had some negative experience working with some tools, but we cannot speak about all tools, right? So it's the same like, different professionals have different level of experience and expertise. So what we do here in Streamline, exactly, we are using what you call traditional approach, but we just make AI to do it much faster and more efficient. Like my personal recommendation would be just to take sample of your data and see how Streamline can improve your planning, and it would be the best way to answer it. So again, all tools are different. And what is nice and beautiful about different AI tools, they develop different level of efficiency, and you cannot just speak about all of them same, right? And again, in Streamline, we are proud to have more than 200 customers globally, and our range, we are working with some mid-size companies, we are working with billion companies, and all of them are satisfied with our algorithm and actually with how we are working. So please let us know if you can help you. Let us know if you would like to have a test drive, and this is actually how we can move forward. So Adam, welcome back. I'm happy that you're here. I just a couple of seconds to respond to one of our attendees' question, and we can move forward. Thank you so much for sharing with us your 3-zone concept. And we have one more question. Can you explain what does the traditional algorithms refer to? Is it automated calculations? Adam, if you don't mind, I will ask you to handle those questions because some of them are more technical, some of them are more supply chain based, and so let's move forward, okay? Let's move forward to questions which we prepared, and after that, we will just answer questions from our audience. And right now, let's move on to building confidence and competence for financial impact. Okay, this is our next chapter here. And what's the role of clean data and infrastructure in making automation work? And actually, it will refer to both questions which we got from our attendees right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think, AI, as with what we saw in some of the earlier waves when we talked about implementing any type of enterprise software for supply chain planning, the same principle applies, which is that data is the raw material, right? If data is wrong, no model is going to save you from anything, right? So, it's a common saying, which is garbage in, garbage out. That applies even more so when it comes to AI. The thing that I would add when it comes to AI, a lot of past systems, right? And systems in the kind of pre-AI era, pre-AI and machine learning, a lot of it is rote analytics, right? Analytics where you put in data, an algorithm is applied on that data that will always produce a consistent output. Now, what we're looking at with generative AI, machine learning, it is a bit more, there's an intuition layer, right? Probabilistic inference, right? That is basically going beyond just looking at data and doing math. I would say AI is not the system that's supposed to do all your math for you. There's still a place for rules-based analytics, right? But you definitely need to make sure in both cases, right, whether it's for the purposes of generating an arithmetic output or generating a sort of qualitative recommendation, you always need to be making sure that you're feeding it correct data.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Appreciate. If you're talking about process change, how do you manage the change process when introducing automation? So again, AI can improve only processes which are already efficient, right? So this is approximately the same which you just mentioned, garbage in, garbage out. So right data, right processes. And without change management, it's impossible. So how do you manage it?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to this, right, a big, area of messaging, a lot of people, for valid reason, are nervous about AI just because of the headlines we all read, right? You go on and see, oh my God, if you're in this industry, if you're in supply chain planning, tomorrow AI is going to make all the decisions, right? You get kind of freaked out naturally. I don't think we're there. I don't think we'll ever quite be there, right? So, I think really just from a communication standpoint as an org, right? Talk about AI in the terms of how it will make people more effective in their jobs, make the organization as a whole better, faster, stronger, right? And also just, that it's going to be starting small, focusing on fixing problems and not just on deploying AI for its own sake. And really leaning on the employees to develop their own skills in AI, to sort of come up with different use cases. That's the other thing. The book is still being written, right? Maybe in a few years this will be different, and there's going to be sets of here's the 5 things that that we do with AI and everything else, But I think in general right now there's a lot of opportunity to explore together in the org and really just kind of leaning on, hey, what are you spending your time doing day to day? What are some opportunities that we see where we can you know, make you more effective, make you do the work of 2 or 3 people in the same amount of time, right? Those are sort of the way to think about it, right? Is that you're able to sort of grow your capabilities as a team. And again, just, augmentation, not replacement, right? So, you know, it's just very important, I think, for people to feel bought into it so that the organization is able to take full advantage.
Thank you so much. We're coming to question, everyone, all humans right now are scared about AI, that AI can take the job, right? But me personally, I don't believe in that. Yes, we will have a lot of changes, but I don't think it's as scary as it sounds sometimes. So question to you, Adam. What skills will make planners irreplaceable in an AI-driven environment?
Yeah, I think, right, when it comes to, when I'm thinking about my, as a planner, as somebody who's worked in supply chain planning in a number of different roles, I have trouble imagining that you're ever going to, um, something as critical as planning the business end to end, making a variety of decisions on what we're going to sell, what we're going to buy, what operational changes we need to make sure our warehouses and our manufacturing plants, et cetera, are staffed accordingly, what decisions we need to make around products that we're going to roll out and how we're going to roll them out. Like, these aren't decisions that any investor that I know of would say, yeah, I just want to completely give that over to the AI, right? So I think when we're thinking about, a planner within an, an SOP, an NLP planner within an organization, right? You will have the ability of, you will have critical thinking, you'll have accountability, and you'll have business storytelling, really understanding what are the priorities and the different levers of control we have within this organization end to end in a way that context-specific AI is never going to be able to match, right? And your ability to sort of work across different technologies, work across different teams, work across different processes is always going to be what sets you apart, right? So I would tell the opportunity for planners is to upskill, with AI literacy workshops, right? Really understand the capabilities as well as the limitations of AI. That doesn't necessarily mean being a coder. That just means being able to prompt the AI to deal with the day-to-day challenges you're facing as a planner. Hey, what are some ideas for how I have this set of products in my catalog that seem impossible to forecast? What are some strategies that I could undertake in setting up my inventory, in making sure that I'm basically reviewing these items on an ongoing basis to make sure that I have the right inventory levels and don't face waste as an organization, right? Being able to ask those kinds of very specific questions, generate ideas, implement and test those ideas, report on what's working. If you have that mindset as sort of a business architect, taking yourself up one level from a planner, you're going to do very, very well in this coming age. What I say is, as many say, is it's not going to be AI that takes your job. It's going to be the people who know AI and who are great with AI that take your job, right? So become one of those people.
Thank you so much. Yesterday, when we were communicating, you also mentioned one phrase that we have to use AI to learn AI. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh yeah. So this is another thing, right? In terms of a lot of times, right, people are saying, oh, well, how do I use AI? How could I, what are some of the use cases? What are some, and historically, when we wanted use cases, we would have to either come up with them ourselves, go to somebody else in industry, look at a case study of somebody who did something and look to emulate it, right? And those are really the only two options you had, right? There was best practice, and now we have this tool called AI, which can actually help us learn good use cases for AI that we want to practice in our business, right? So I always recommend, and I do this in everything. I did this in building my company with FlexChain. I've done this through a number of the Streamline implementations, right? Where when there's a novel problem that you're facing, right? And you're kind of trying to understand, synthesize a lot of information for what's the best solution to this use case that I'm dealing with. I have a business that sells on these marketplaces that currently faces this issue with items stocking out. And they're also trying to figure out how do you effectively scale as you roll out new store and retail locations, right? If you want and the AI will actually give you ideas, things to consider that you may not have considered before. So, right, using AI to learn how I can use AI, right? And asking it, hey, what are some, areas, where AI is making the most impact in my field as a supply chain planner for this type of industry or for this type of product, right? Asking those questions and just seeing what it's able to come out with is just a great way. It's like, really is, it's like, doing web browser or like, Google search on steroids.
Thank you so much. So let me just summarize. Streamline has an AI agent, and you can just pretty much communicate with the system. You can ask questions. You can ask, for example, best practices, how to use some functionality. So this is AI for supply chain planning, and you can communicate with the system to learn how to better implement and deploy it. Thank you so much, Adam.
And then,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and on top of that, right, when it comes to having the AI agent embedded within the tool itself, right, it also makes the process of training and onboarding, right? So, you could use, right? So normally, right, there's always that in-between handoff, right? When you're doing an implementation of a new software, you're sort of afraid that, okay, is the client, is the user, right, fully trained to be able to start using the system on day one, right? And there's that sort of you can really only learn once you're in the system and doing it, right? But then you're sort of nervous also because you haven't, maybe you don't yet feel fully comfortable, with all the features and functionalities that you're going to need in a tool like Streamline, right? To basically plan your business, right? And now having this sort of immediate ability to just ask questions of, hey, how do I update the forecast on this set of items? How do I filter my catalog just for this item category so that I'm able to effectively plan this cross section of the business? How do I change the lead times, right? Being able to do things like that without it just significantly increases the it increases the uptake, right? And the ramp of being able to bring on a system, right? Not having to have all of these sort of awkward back and forth handoffs of, I don't know how to do this and I need help.
Thank you so much. It brings us to one more question, and it's also about balance. So I believe that balance is one of the most important concepts in our life and business and operations, everything. And let's try to find balance between intuition and AI automation. So when should we rely on human intelligence, sometimes even our intuition, and when should we rely on what AI is advising us to do? So how can we find that balance, and how can we find the truth?
Yeah, so I would generally say, like, when it comes to any decision that we're using AI for, the question to always ask ourselves is, if I'm going to implement something that AI has recommended, what's my ability to sort of measure and course correct if anything is, right? And so I don't ever think that there's any cost-based decision that you just completely outsource to AI. I think there's always, human intuition should be part and parcel of every AI use case you're applying in your business today, right? But so think of AI as a highly intelligent advisor that never gets tired and can work weekends, etc., right? Don't think of it as the boss that's always right and you're not allowed to question. Be ready to question and scrutinize the outcomes of AI. And if there's something that you're not sure of, right, and you're like, okay, well, it's flipping a coin. Is it what I would have done, or is it what the AI would have done? Then just set up a cadence where you can try, and if something seems off, you're able to immediately course correct, right? And also double check. Ask another human in the organization for another set of eyes, or ask another AI for what its recommendation would be. There's different sort of, just make sure that you are always the owner of the work streams that are being put in place in your planning organization, right? You're not giving the keys to your car to AI.
Thank you so much. Let me summarize. So we have to delegate tasks, but we should never outsource thinking, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on. Let's speak a little bit about S&OP in 2026. And of course, it's also about AI. So how actually can we define that we have very mature AI-enabled S&OP, and how does it look in 2026?
Yeah, so I would say in general, right, the ultimate goal of implementing AI and software to basically govern your planning process is to get to a point where 80% of your business's day-to-day activities, forecast recommendations, purchasing order recommendations, analytics and reporting summaries of kind of key KPIs and drivers within your supply chain, right? Scenario design, inventory simulation, all of these sort of activities that could normally lock your team's resources up for weeks or months, right? You want 80% of that to be handled by the system, right? What does that sort of require at a foundational level? First is going to be, clean data, right? So clean data for inventory, for pricing, for sales history, for item assortment, for lead times, for inbound pipeline, all of those kind of key silos. You need to make sure that you have clean data. You're not really going to be able to feed, any bad data, as we said earlier, any bad data that you feed into AI is going to just give you a bad answer, right? So clean data, and that's, an evergreen concept for the last 20 years is you need to have clean data, right? The second piece is, making sure that you have a team that is sort of ready, AI and technically literate, to sort of take on some of these challenges. And if that's not your team today, then make sure that your team today is investing in those capabilities for tomorrow, right? And then long term, making sure that, okay, you now have your clean data, you have a great team. The second piece is investing in actual ongoing data governance, right? Because it's not a set it and forget it. It is a constant need to sort of attend to the storefront and make sure that your data is clean and correct, and also just a culture of change management, right? Because AI is it is a fast moving train, and we're just at one of the first stops, right? So being ready for ongoing emerging innovations and disruptions that are going to so having this culture of, it's not, okay, we did this once and now we don't have to do it again for 20 years. It's constant iteration and continuous improvement. A few examples just I want to give out just for folks who are kind of looking for, okay, what are some areas where AI can be kind of really effective for me to think about in 2026? And again, it's going to be different, might be different for your organization, but just use these sort of as food for thought, and see about coming up with some of your own as well. So one is and a few of these are capabilities that are also embedded in Streamline already, right? In terms of some of their some will be kind of within, supply chain planning software, and some will be a little bit more of, dealing with S&OP and organizational capabilities more broadly, right? So, one is, having basically AI and machine learning that will choose the right forecasting model to use for a given item, right? And also choose the right planning history that's considered relevant for generating a forecast for an item, right? So choosing the right sort of time horizons to look at, right? That's a very important one. It's again one that historically, right, time series supply chain forecasting systems would just take in all the data and do all of the, do a forecast based on that. And if you had, for example, an item that was just introduced and had really low sales and then suddenly took off, right, it might include all of that old data, right, to come up with the forecast, right? So that's one really, great capability. Streamline actually, handles that one, right? Just to be able to basically choose the right model and history to use. Another one is data enrichment, right? So if, for example, you're wanting to develop out an item catalog that you're loading into some type of ERP or enterprise system, right? If you need to categorize items against a product taxonomy you've generated, right? Normally, if you have to go through item by item and basically fill in each field one by one, it could take a really long time, right? Maybe you can use AI, right? Give it your structure and then give it some information about each product, and then have AI help you basically enrich all of the data for the items that that are in your catalog, right? And then make it such that you're able to sort of port them across systems more effectively and save yourself a lot of time in sort of managing your data. Another thing is also reviewing. For example, if you have items in your system that have incorrect dimensions and they're impacting your shipping costs, you're trying to figure out which items those might be. Maybe you could feed just a whole, your whole 100,000 SKU catalog into an AI and have it review and flag for you, hey, here's the items where it looks like you have incorrect dimensions, right? And just, again, just reducing some of the work that you would otherwise have to have people doing. Another one is demand and operational guidance updates, right? Based on external factors. So if weather, some type of industry change, some type of current event impacts your demand or your supply in a meaningful way, being able to have AI that will interact with your system and basically make tweaks to your buying plan or tweaks to your forecast or tweaks to some aspect of your operational planning to react to some of those changes in real time, right? Again, before maybe they've showed up in the data. Also thinking about supplier communications, right? So, if you have a whole bunch of information about a supplier's performance, their average lead times, their open orders, return rates for their products, right? And let's say those suppliers are scattered around the world and speak in different languages, and maybe there's, sort of communication barriers, right? AI can be really effective also in summarizing some of that data. And then, basically if you fed it, for example, a file, right, of kind of supplier performance metrics, and then fed it in through AI and actually called out, okay, this is where the supplier is based, et cetera. I want to, make sure they have a communication of knowing what are their areas for improvement, right? AI could really effectively generate those for you at scale as well, right? In the supplier's, native language, right? So these are just a few areas to think about, how could AI be used in my business, right? To improve kind of my supply chain planning on the whole. But there's infinitely more. So this was just really just a snapshot. Hopefully it was able to give some inspiration.
Adam, thank you so much for this summary. I think it was fantastic. Really, it was great that you just summarized it. You gave us some categories and some actually what to pay attention to. I think it's great. Thank you so much. Appreciate. Let's move to next stage of our webinar. Next step, it's a QA, and we already have some questions from our attendees. And we have a question from Bob. AI to drive database management of things like PFAS and conflict minerals with suppliers. So can you handle this one?
Yeah, so this is, so that's a great example, right, of kind of what I was, right? So AI is also very good at identifying connections between disparate ideas, right? So looking for sort of, it is ultimately a pattern recognition and machine learning tool, right? So for example, I'm a little lost on the PFAS acronym, but at least conceptually, I sort of, know that if there are raw materials, right? If you have basically a list of all of your different items, right? And okay, yeah, PFAS, forever chemicals. So if you have a list basically of, all of your different products and the bills of materials associated with those products, right? And there is some change from some external change that has now happened, right? In terms of maybe it's an issue with tariffs or trade embargo or some type of supply disruption of some kind, new regulation, right? That is impacting items that are in your catalog, right? AI could basically, if you fed in your catalog and said, had the AI look for current events that could be impacting any item and generating almost like a risk report of, any items that might be affected and that you need to give some attention to, right? So that's also for just like a business resiliency standpoint, right? You're able to kind of leverage AI as a driver of exception management and exception identification, right? So that's another really effective use case, right? Getting out of sort of the, retail and e-commerce world that I tend to operate in, right? This is really more in the production and raw material space and also an area where AI is making tremendous impact.
Thank you so much, Adam. We have one more question from Bob. Actually, Bob sent it to me yesterday before before the webinar, and he wanted to ask next one. I'm interested in how you layer AI on the S&OP process. Some data supporting S&OP can be automated and some cannot. Can you elaborate on this one?
Yeah, so what I would generally say, right? So we're going to want to separate over time, right? AI, I know it's sort of the new hot craze, right? But we're going to want to separate in our minds the like AI project versus just general innovation and improvement, right? And some of those, at some point, right, nobody says anymore that like I'm going to do a .com project, right? It's just like, internet is just part of our workflow now, right? And I think sort of AI, we're going to want to evolve to that point as well, because yeah, the truth is it's not just like, oh, what can AI do for me end to end? It's more, how does AI work with some other capabilities I have and add its own flavor on top, right? So that's sort of, if I'm thinking about how, so, when we say how AI is going to change S&OP, right? That doesn't mean that AI is going to take over every aspect of S&OP. There's still room for analytics. There's still room for optimization. There's still definitely room. In fact, I'd actually argue the majority is always still going to be the people sort of driving the car and using AI as one of the tools in the tool belt.
Thank you so much for this last sentence. So AI is a tool, just a tool. Let's not expect too much from AI. It's a tool which is going to make operations much faster, with right data more precise, but this is only a tool, and only 50% of success. 50% belong to human intelligence and how competent humans are. Sorry, let's move on. We have one more question from Andy. If you're looking to hire someone in the S&OP space, what would you be looking for as their current experience with AI? How would you identify candidates that is AI ready?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, for if I'm looking to hire somebody in that space, it's you really like there's domain knowledge, right? Is the one piece, right? And that's been true always, right? You need to hire somebody who understands your business, and also just general resourcefulness. Just you know, an interest in being able to sort of own and control a greater and greater share of the process, right? Using the AI to sort of enhance. So there's one aspect which is their mindset, and are they sort of scrappy and able to sort of navigate in new and changing environments. And then specific to AI, right? I would just honestly ask them questions. How are you using AI in your life today? You know, what are some ways that you think, you know, give them put together a case of you know, if you even yourself need to kind of have just some examples of ways that AI can be used, right? Give them a scenario and say, hey, how you know, how might AI be able to support this or that challenge that we're having, right? You know, give them a, hey, you know, we have items that we never seem to get on time, right? We really need to improve our supplier performance so that we're able to have inventory of the products that we need to sell. What are some ways that AI might be able to help with that, right? And you can give it to them either live or as a take home and just sort of see, are they thinking critically about what are some things that the AI can sort of help them do? There's not a right answer, right? But you just really want to gauge their thinking, and are they using it, and or are they curious to be using it, right? And then how effectively are they able to sort of broaden some of those concepts to sort of help your business move forward?
Thank you so much, Adam. Can't agree more. And we have several more questions I got from our attendees yesterday. So let's answer them. And we still have a couple of more minutes. So if you do have questions, feel free to write them in our chat. So question number one. Many organizations have complex legacy system, ERP forecasting tools, etc. How can this be integrated with modern AI-driven forecasting platform without disrupting current operations?
Yeah, so what I would generally, if the tool that you're working with, right? AI, it's yeah, I mean it's again like going to what Natalie said earlier, right? AI is a tool. It is not it's not like, oh, it's going to replace all of your legacy systems, right? Legacy systems probably are serving some function around data management or data creation if it's something that's basically running some type of analytical, predictive workflow, optimization, etc. Right? So what I would generally say is to look into tools, right? Maybe it's some type of data warehousing and reporting. If AI doesn't exist within the tools that you're working with, obviously I would actually challenge all of my suppliers, right, in key areas where AI is expected to make disruption. If I know that I'm sort of tethered to a previous system, I would want to talk with that supplier and say, hey, what are your plans? How are you guys thinking about AI? Right? So driving those discussions with some of your existing software providers could kind of give you a sense of what their roadmaps are. And then think about also third-party tools that are AI-driven reporting, analytical recommendation workflows that obviously have high data security, et cetera, and are able to sort of bolt on and integrate with some of your existing tools to create kind of novel outputs and insights.
Thank you so much. We have one more question. We are seeing a surge in AI-built products, supply chain space. Also, we are seeing organizations that are not flexible to ready-made solutions and asking for frequent customization. So is there a balance on this? Is all AI built is completely used, or it should be flexible?
So yeah, so I mean, this kind of goes to the challenge when you have these types of kind of bubble, these just sort of very bubbly, hype, frothy kind of market environments where everybody wants to become an AI. I mean, I've been to a number of trade shows and conferences in the last few weeks, and I'm continually astounded at the number of companies that like they've been around for decades and decades and decades, but now all of their marketing materials, AI company, AI software, AI this, AI that. And it's like, how are you guys all suddenly now AI companies? So I think it's definitely, that just creates a dynamic where you have to suss these things out yourself in a very kind of, to a lot of the solutions that are going to be out there and saying, oh, we solve all of your problems with AI, right? There's a lot of snake oil out there, and you have to sort of be mindful of that and, making sure that it's actually able to solve your underlying use case, and it's not what they call demoware. It's not just something where if it's a very specific instance that may or may not apply to my company, then the AI does something really cool, but this will never actually work for me. There is going to be a lot of that out there too, right? And you want to sort of make sure that again, it is not your responsibility to implement every single thing under the sun that calls itself AI and that might help your business, right? It is your job to sort of, and this again puts the human first. We are sort of the curators of what we take on. So it's our job to learn, it's our job to explore, and it's our job to look to solve where there are real problems or where we know that there's real upside. It's not like we don't necessarily, have to create something custom for every single part of our supply chain, especially not all at once.
Thank you so much, Adam. We still have only 3 minutes left before 12, and I know that at 12 you have a different meeting, and we just have to finish on time, being respectful to everyone's time. So thank you so much for answering all of these questions. Thank you so much for joining our webinar and sharing your experience. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, for investing 1 hour of your time into communication with me and Adam. Please feel free to connect with us after webinar. We're absolutely happy to continue conversation. We're absolutely happy to help you with your questions, with your challenges. So let us know if any help is needed. Me and Adam, we're also going to be speakers in Gartner Conference in December, Denver, Supply Chain Planning Conference, Gartner. So if you're visiting it, also let us know. We will be happy to, just kind of have some conversation, drink coffee together. See you soon. We will have more webinars on different relevant topics. Wish everyone to have a nice finishing of 2025 and great, successful, and a lot of growth and operational improvement 2026. So thank you so much for joining, and talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care. Take care.